Roll Tribe! As the Tribe wins again, the Detroit Red Wings seem to find their way in winning hockey games. And the Mud Hens finally win a ball game. I love you guys, and welcome in to the special edition of All Andy Alfred right here on Clay Fan 2-3. I am your host, Andy Alfred, with a special guest with me this afternoon as well, too. We're going to break down all of what happened yesterday in the world of sports. The Mud Hens picking up a victory, the Red Wings coming back and winning it in overtime, and of course the Cleveland Indians as well picking up a big victory. But it is my pleasure and welcoming in to All Andy Alfred this afternoon a good friend of ours. He is a member. He's a big fan of the show. And he is a good friend of mine. His name is Lucas Sigurdson, and he's joining me on the program today. Lucas, welcome into the program.
Thanks for having me, Andy.
It is a pleasure to have you on the program. So let's get into this right away. The Detroit Red Wings coming back in the NHL playoffs to tie the series at 2 games apiece on a weird goal to end the game, to say the least. What's your take on that?
It kills me. I hate to see the Red Wings continuously win. I long this whole season to hope that the Red Wings would finally miss the playoffs. Seeing my Avalanche down the bottom of the tank, of course.
I know you're the same boat. If you guys would have beat the Wild on the last day of the season, us as the Blue Jacket fans would be in a celebratory mood because we probably would be getting swept by the Chicago Blackhawks.
Hey, you would have been in the playoffs. So.
Yeah, we would have been in the playoffs, exactly. But the Red Wings coming back with the Damian Brunner goal. What do you think of the Brunner goal?
It just looked like it was luck. I consider it. It went off the goalie, and the goalie went to swat it out, and then the defender went to swat it out, and then in the process, the goalie got ran over, and Brunner got the puck and put it right in the net. It was sad to see it happen that way. I watched the whole second and third period, and to see them come back in that game, just hated to see it. I just wanted to see the world shake and the Red Wings go down 3-1 in the series.
It would have been great, especially with Justin Abdelkader being out now for 2 games, and now he'll get to come back for Game 6 of this series. But he also have another big important series that's happening in New York at the same time too. The Washington Capitals taking on the New York Rangers, as the Rangers, are struggling as of late. But with the pickup of Rick Nash in the offseason, and with Derek Dorsett and John Moore and Derek Brassard from the Blue Jackets, thinking that they were going to help this team out, it was really not helping them at all. I mean, you could see last night the Rangers did win, but they're down 2-1 in the series.
Yeah, I remember when I read that Rick Nash had been traded to the Rangers. I texted you right away like, oh man, this is a big trade here. And then, of course, Gaborik goes to the Blue Jackets. So Nash was probably laughing the whole way in that. But
you're giving back 3 good players from the Blue Jackets over to the Rangers.
I thought that was a surprise, giving up guys like Dorsett. You have Moore as like a defenseman in the future, and giving them up for Nash, and that shows that they were ready to be locked and loaded, ready to try to take it and get the cup.
Mm-hmm. Well, you also have to look at the series between Boston and the Toronto Maple Leafs. First time the Leafs have hosted a playoff game since 2004, and the party got crashed last night by the Boston Bruins. The Bruins took a win yesterday, 5-2.
Yeah, I love that goalie Reimer for Toronto. I anticipate Toronto coming into the playoffs very locked and loaded, ready to go. First time being in the playoffs in how many years? I mean,
it's like
the Bruins finally found their scoring niche. I think. I mean, they. Like late in the season, they struggled trying to get the puck in the net. It was more like a defensive battle, but they really turned it up late.
What do you think of this Montreal-Ottawa series between these two bloodbath? And it was the other night. It was like basically a game on Sunday night. It was basically like a game at Tano Shanner. There's 5 on the bench left at the end of the game, basically. And what do you think of this series so far?
I think it's the best. It's the most intriguing series. I feel. I mean, there's a lot of intriguing. Probably Anaheim and Detroit is probably like the series I'm paying most interest to, but that brawl the other night was great. It was it all started with that hit in Game 1 for on the Montreal guy. I forget his name.
It was Stastny, or not Stastny, but somebody else. But anyway, it was just a gruesome hit. But then the retaliation of that from Game 3 was just unbelievable.
The hit was. The player didn't leave the ice, so it was technically a legal hit, but his shoulder hit the head. Yeah. So that's what But that brawl the other night, it was amazing to see only 5 guys on the bench for each team.
It's like a game of Tam O'Shanter, basically.
Yeah.
But the defending champion, the LA Kings, they have a series in front of them too with the St. Louis Blues. I picked the Blues at the beginning of this playoff series because they're the team that's surprising a lot of people that the Blues are in the playoffs, of course. Yeah, but with Ken Hitchcock and his club,
when he took over, I mean he really brought the team together. He really gave them focus, gave them Backus, their captain. He keeps the team solid on the ice. And Brian Elliott, he's a fine goaltender. The Kings, I mean, I figured they'd be coming in ready to go. Won the Stanley Cup last year, of course. I mean, what's your take on that? I figured they'd be.
I was looking at the Kings as saying that they are a club to watch because of the quick turnaround. However, when they started 0-4, when they lost that big game, that first game of the season against Chicago, I was in a little bit of a shock. Like, this is the Kings that won the Stanley Cup the year after? And then they finally got into the rhythm, finally got into the momentum. Jeff Carter's finally got his stuff going around. But the only problem I have right now is Jonathan Quick. He cannot stop the puck.
Well,
he had 2 fluky goals that have cost him a couple games. Look at game 1. Perfect example. He had that puck that just trickled in. It was like an Osgood kind of a goal. Mm-hmm. And if you remember in the 98 playoffs when the Red Wings were playing the Coyotes and the guy took a shot from center ice and it went through Osgood, that's how it was almost the same exact way for Jonathan Quick at the end of the game.
It's funny that you bring up the goaltending because, back to talking about the Red Wings, you have all these Red Wings fans, screaming at Jimmy Howard like, come on, we have 6 more years of this. But really, I think it's for the Red Wings case, kind of getting off topic here. I think it's more of the defensive issue there.
Yeah, the Red Wings
with Quick, he's a great goaltender. I think his last name says it all. He's elusive, he's agile. I think it's just his first series. He's kind of a little shaky, but
do you think?
I don't doubt the Kings. You don't doubt the Kings? I feel like they'll win this series. They'll get to round 2.
Okay,
but
it's just gonna be a reseeding. We'll see how the reseeding happens too. Because if Detroit does beat Anaheim, you would now imagine that Minnesota will probably get beat out tonight by the Hawks and make the series a 3-1 series lead for the Blackhawks going back to Chicago. You really think that this is going to be interesting to see if Chicago and Detroit will play in the next round because Detroit was the lower seed.
Yes. I really hope if the Red Wings do get past the Ducks, I really hope it does end up being the Blackhawks and the Red Wings because my number one goal is to see the Red Wings get knocked out, of course.
What do you think about this San Jose Vancouver series? I believe I think it's very one-sided.
I'm very surprised. Usually, for years now, San Jose has been a very mediocre playoff team. Mm-hmm. They've always been that team that's gotten in the playoffs, but they never performed. They've always been, one round and out. Yeah, it was like that a couple years ago. Actually, they faced the Avalanche. They beat them in round 1.
Yeah.
But San Jose being up 3-0. I'm surprised.
They're going for the sweep tomorrow night.
Yeah, and Corey Schneider, I think, is a great goalie. Luongo, I think
there's a lot of question marks with Luongo.
That's been a big mess all season. Why they started him in game 2, I'm not sure. I think what they need to do in Vancouver is they need to get Luongo out of there. He needs to be traded somewhere.
Toronto's looking for a goalie.
I don't see why Toronto's looking for a goalie. I love Reamer.
Yeah.
And they have a fine backup to it. I can't think of his name. But I think their goaltending is great.
Yeah, they're good. You look at it, Schneider has done really well, but Roberto Luongo has been the face of the Canucks for so long. After getting traded from Florida over to Vancouver, he's been one of the faces of that team for so long.
I think the problem out this season.
I think he's kind of burned out as well too. And you gotta also look at the fact that this has been a shortened season. This was a quick season as well too. Mm-hmm. We're gonna go into after this. We're gonna get ready for training camp almost basically because when we end the season, hypothetically, the last game of the NHL playoffs will be June 28th. The NHL draft will start the 30th of June, which is a day turnaround for NHL fans. It's a quick turnaround, so we'll see what happens with that. But do you think? Lucas is a big Walleye fan. I want to ask you a question about the Walleye. Do you think that Nick Vitucci is going to be the coach next year?
Oh yes, I don't think Nick Vitucci will be going anywhere. I think he's, yeah, it's always a building process, and you're at this low, you're at a low grade hockey organization. They're down in Double A hockey. We started out first couple seasons, the Walleye were a little iffy.
First year they made the playoffs.
Yeah, they made the playoffs the first season, then had a rough couple years after that. Then this season they made the playoffs, of course. I think the team's on a great turnaround. I think we're going to see. Yeah, they brought in a lot of veteran leaders this past season. They had like Wes O'Neill, Phil Oreskovic, and of course the captain Kyle Rogers. I think they're a fine team. I'd like to see some guys like maybe Randy Rowe. I'd like to see him come back. And then of course like some AHL guys. We have Andre Nestor still.
Do you think Jordan Pierce will be your goaltender next year?
Because
there's been a lot of talks with him and being trade bait.
Yeah, I believe that Kent Simpson. Something tells me that Kent Simpson will be our goaltender next season.
Okay.
But I think he's the goaltender of the future for the Blackhawks. But back to the wall, I think a lot of AHL guys like you might see Luke Glendening, Andre Nestor, Willie Coetzee. I mean, they're all their time at the wall this past season. Terry Broadhurst, they're all fine hockey players. I think the Walleye franchise is on its way up. I think we're gonna have a good couple seasons.
Yeah, it's very good, very good. Well, this is part one. We're gonna come back for part two of this episode, and we're gonna talk a little bit, dive more into baseball because this man knows his baseball stuff here, folks. This guy is a Philly fanatic, so I'm gonna have to pick his brain about Roy Halladay and Cliff Lee, of course. And he's probably going to pick my brain about the Tigers as well, too. So stick with us. This is part one.
Hang on, one more thing.
Okay.
Before we got to talk about when we're talking about NHL. Let's talk about the NHL draft here.
Okay.
Most importantly, the number one pick.
Oh God,
he belongs to no other than my Colorado Avalanche.
Oh boy.
Pulled out number one on the draft lottery there.
Well, we're number 14, so we were fine. We're fine with that.
Looks like my Avalanche won the Seth Jones sweepstakes. Got the defenseman of the future. We're going to be winning the Stanley Cup this season.
Do you think it's a good fit for them?
I think it's a great fit. I mean, we have young forwards and Gabriel Landeskog. We have Paul Stastny. We have veteran leaders like Milan Hajduk. Matt Duchene. He's a great young player. I think defense has always been our issue. We're getting old. We're getting up there with age. We have Greg Zan, and we have a couple. Goaltending. I think Semyon Varlamov is just phenomenal. He's such a fine goaltender. I think I see no issues with him. I've seen issues with their defensive line. It's all about protecting goaltender and solid blue liners. And I think Seth Jones. He's very quick. He's very elusive. He knows how to score. He can get the puck in the net. And I've watched replays of him on YouTube and he's as good as it gets when it comes to a young defenseman.
Now, you guys are going into this new division, since the East is now being broken up at 7-6, 7-6. You're going into this division now with almost all of the rest of the league, and you're moving also with Dallas, you're playing with Minnesota, you're playing with Chicago, you're also playing with Winnipeg at the same time, too. Do you think that's just going to benefit them with the Seth Jones and the Stastnys and so on and so forth? Do you think that this is going to help the Avalanche out, or do you think this is going to be still a rebuilding year for the Avalanche?
I think I wouldn't call it a rebuilding year. I'd like to see them make maybe an 8 seed in the playoffs. I'm not sure. I mean, it's all about who they get for their next coach. I mean, I know there are plenty of rumors talking around, like a Patrick Waugh,
Well, you really want a goalie as your head coach, though. That's a question. You'll be solid in the net because he'll be a goalie coach, and you look at it with Nick Vitucci at the same time too, because he's a goalie coach. Didn't really in my personal opinion, didn't really have the effort to put it into the offense up front. Killed it in the power play situation, but offensive and defensively and goaltending, he was lights out with the Walleye. I think if you get a goalie head coach, it's like what Patrick Waugh is, with the speculated rumors that Patrick Waugh is going to be the next coach of Colorado. I don't think it's a really good fit for them because with the young forwards that they got, you need to maturity.
Who would be a good fit then?
I would think Lindy Ruff from the Buffalo Sabres, who was fired, and now the Buffalo Sabres picking up their interim coach and signing him to a 2-year deal. I think Lindy Ruff would be a great selection for them. Look at how he has helped that team out from the playoff situation. Also has helped out with Ryan Miller at the same time too. Can help that out, but is also great on the offensive front with the Buffalo. When he was with Buffalo.
I can see that. I just feel like we need to take a step towards a veteron coach, a guy who knows.
Lindy
what
Ruff
he's
would be
doing.
a veteran coach.
I wouldn't like to call it a rebuilding year. I think they won't be at the bottom.
Okay.
Safe to say that. If they just miss out on the playoffs, they'll be ninth team out. I think they have a great team. They have a young team. They're very, they're quick. If Landeskog, he suffered with concussions this past season.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like they're plagued by lots of injuries, and if it weren't for those injuries, they could have had a little more productive of a season.
Do you think they would have been out of the cellar, and you think that Minnesota would have given Minnesota at least a chance or a run at the?
Yeah, I think so, and it all goes back to you need to be good all around the ice. If you get Seth Jones in the draft, as a defenseman, he'll be that first line blue liner for you. You have a stockpile of forwards just waiting for the opportunity. You have a stockpile already having their opportunity. You bring in some solid defensemen and you have a chance to be a great hockey team.
All right, so this guy knows his hockey, of course, but I'm going to pick his brain a little bit more about baseball here in just a little bit. So stay with us here for part 2 of All Andy Alfred.